Hi there, my name's Ben and I like to read. Today we're going to be reviewing possibly my favorite science fiction book of all time. It is Philip K. Dick's Ubik. Now, I've already covered a Philip K. Dick book in the past, which was The Man in the High Castle, so I won't be going into, a synopsis of Philip K. Dick's life. Quick little refresher, though, he was a science fiction author from the United States. For multiple years, he wrote some very, very influential books, such as The Man in the High Castle, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. He wrote short stories such as Minority Report, A Scanner Darkly, and many of these have been adapted, I should say, into motion picture films and TV series as well. This book today, Ubik, is, as I mentioned, is easily my favorite science fiction book of all time, and I think it's Philip K. Dick's best work to date. Essentially, it's in the future that he was writing it. It's set in the year 1992. It's an alternate world where, the United States and the Soviet Union still are still enemies. However, there are these temperance agencies that employ psychically gifted people. Now, these people can, they can act as, psychic shadows, which means that they can block sort of the what are they called? Not biomechanical, biometric markers of somebody. They can change the future. They can, do a whole variety of other stuff. So again, these temperance agencies are employed to, by either state or non-state actors and corporations in order to, they almost act as a sort of like the equivalent of spies for the corporate world. But also within this world, we have, we can go to the moon, where we have a moon base where corporations and other people can just go. And then we also have this thing called half-death. So essentially, when a person is, half-death is almost like it's almost like a coma, but you can still communicate with the person. It's where their body is dead and it's on ice, but the mind still exists. So what you can do is you can go to these quote-unquote hospitals where they are, and you'll see their body right there frozen, but there's a little speaker where you can actually hear them talk, and you can ask them advice, and it's sort of that midway point between, like, yes, eventually they will die and they will get, quote-unquote reincarnated, but it offers the person who is full living an opportunity to commune with their family. This plot point is important later. So anyway, that's enough of the background. So you've got Glenn Runsiter, who owns Runsiter and Associates, which is probably the biggest temperance agency out there, and it's certainly the most famous. He's in a competition with Ray Hollis. Now, he gets a contract to go to the moon base to, the mission itself is somewhat vague. He speaks to his wife, Ella, who is, again, in cryostasis in that half-death state. She still advises him on certain matters. And he sends his best team out there, which are led by a bunch of psychically enhanced humans, along with his non-psychic, almost his best psychic reader. This guy actually goes out and scouts new recruits. His name is Joe Chip, who's, if anything, the protagonist of the story. While on the mission, something goes terribly wrong. There's a big explosion. Everybody but Runsiter survives, and they end up going back to Earth. But then they notice that some odd things start to happen. They notice that they're starting to almost go back in time, and eventually what was a futuristic 1992 becomes almost like a 1930s, 1940s sort of a setting as they're traveling all throughout, and we're not really, they keep, hearing Glenn Runsiter's voice, and they come across this, these references to this Ubik. Ubik is everywhere. It's in toothpaste. It's in, those old school like soda pops that you used to get at the pharmacy. And it's everywhere. But all the while, as their world seems to be traveling back, regressing almost, dying, if you will, one by one, the remaining team members start to get picked off by this unseen force. And I won't spoil it all for you because it's a very, very trippy book. It really makes you think as to who's in Half-Death, who isn't, is something weirder at play, what exactly is Ubik, and the novel ends on a cliffhanger, and it's easily one of the best cliffhangers I've ever read. It just blows the blast doors off of anything that could possibly be considered like wrapping up the story, and it just opens up so many new avenues, and it makes you think really, really hard. So it's I think it's a fantastic book. I love the way that Philip K. Dick writes. I think that he's got, even though he does have a tendency to get a little bit pedantic with his with the descriptions, like he goes like so far into detail with, okay, yes, there are X number of squares on this person's tie, and he's lighting up, this fake brand of marijuana cigarette that you'll never see again. So it's almost like The Man on the High Castle in that sense, but it works. It works within the context of this story, and when you have those two parallel journeys of Joe Chip and the gang, and then Glenn Runsiter, and how it really is almost like the best possible version in print anyway of a almost parallel universe story, right? Because they all started, the plot threads all start in one sort of a sense, then the event happens, and then they split and they go off in parallel, but there's so much cross-pollination between the two worlds that you're not really sure, okay, which one is the original one, and you're ending up with the conclusion that, okay, maybe this psionic event that happened ended up splitting, and there is no prime world or prime timeline anymore. There are just now two separate universes that are coexisting. It's super, super trippy. It reads really, really well. It's a little bit over 215 pages, and I've read this book probably like 5 or 6 times. It's my favorite for a reason. I always come back to it, and yeah, it is a book that cannot be skipped out on. If you want something easy to read, if you want something that's going to entertain you, something that compels you, you literally cannot put it down. As you're reading it, you're going to want to keep reading it all throughout. Even if you're not necessarily into science fiction, it's just a really, really good story, and the philosophies within it and the questions that are raised really make you question, the nature of reality, of life, of death, of time itself. So it's not only is it that compelling, but it's also so cerebral, and to pack all of that in 216 pages is just, again, it's a testament to how good of a writer Philip K. Dick is. So, if you're interested in it, definitely pick it up. Even if you're not interested in it, I highly recommend it. Don't skip out on it. If you've already read it, let me know what your thoughts were in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.